We got to learn to walk daily for Him.
Amen.
To live for God. Sometimes that requires trust. And that requires learning to trust Him through some of the hardest situations in our lives. Through some of the hardest times you can go through. And sometimes you don't even understand why you're going through it. But sometimes He's preparing you for your future work. I always end up taking people to Proverbs chapter 3. And you know, I end up doing that a lot of times when I'm visiting somebody in the hospital or at the deathbed of somebody with their loved ones. I go to Proverbs chapter 3 and I remind them what Proverbs 3 says. Verses 3, 5, and 6, and 7. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. What does it mean to trust in the Lord with all your heart? It means when God tells you to do something, move. Do it. Follow Him. Do not stop and analyze it. It says, in all your ways, submit to Him and He will make your path straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes, thinking that you're going to be able to outthink God or see something coming that He don't. It says, but fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. It says, honor the Lord with your wealth and the first fruits of your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing and your vats will be brim over with new wine. So we got to learn to trust God. For anybody following along in Scripture, I'm not actually in Proverbs chapter 3. I'm in 1 Kings chapter 17, but I needed to open up with that. I needed to open up with that because at this point, Elijah is getting ready to go through a situation where he has to trust God. And I believe God takes him through a situation beforehand. I believe God takes Elijah through a situation where he's going to have to trust God. I believe Elijah takes him through this situation to prepare him for what's coming next. Because he's not just going to have to trust God in his life, he's going to have to teach others to trust God. Sometimes you're going through these rough times because God's preparing you for your work. Starting at verse 1. It says, now Elijah the Tishbite from Tishbe in Gilead said to Ahab, as the Lord, the God of Israel, lives whom I serve, there will be neither dew nor rain for the next few years except at my word. Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah, leave here and turn eastward and hide in the Kernith ravine, east of Jordan, and you will drink from the brook, and I have directed ravens to supply you with food there. Now, you know, that takes a lot of trust to God. What are you telling me? I need to go hide and live over by this brook and drink from that water, and which back then wasn't nothing big, you know. They didn't have sinks and filters and stuff we got now, you know. But you're going to have these dirty birds bring me food. I'm going to eat food that they drop, really? He's not questioning it. He does it. All right, Lord, I trust you. It says, so he did what the Lord told him. He went to the Kernith ravine east of the Jordan and stayed there. And the ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the brook. Now, can you imagine that? Can you imagine birds bringing you bread and birds bringing you meat? You haven't enough to eat for breakfast and dinner. God's supplying for him completely. Why? Because he faithfully and blindly trusted God when God told him what to do. You know, and how many people faithfully trust God when God tells him to move, when God tells him to go work somewhere, when God tells him to go speak to somebody. How many people do that? A lot of people don't. A lot of people run. Look at what Jonah did. Jonah ran. He said, go to Nineveh. And God told Elijah to go to the Kerneth ravine. Elijah went. God provided everything. Jonah, go to Nineveh. And he went the opposite direction. Ended up in the belly of a big fish, you know. He still ended up having to do what God told him to do. It's just harder. So, you know, he had to learn to trust God, and God provided for him. So verse 7, it says, sometime later the brook dried up. Remember, there was no rain. And there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him and said, go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon, and stay there. I have directed a widow to supply you with food. So he went to Zarephath. When he came to the town, a widow was there gathering sticks, and he called out to her and asked, would you bring me a little water in a jar so I may have a drink? As she was going to get it, he called to her, and bring me, please, a piece of bread. As surely as the Lord your God lives, she replied, I don't have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jug. I am gathering a few sticks to take home and make a meal for myself and my son so we may eat it and die. This lady here, she's expecting to starve to death. Her and her son's expecting to not make it through this time. She hasn't learned to trust God. But Elijah just went through this situation where God provided him food, bread and meat from birds. God did what was seemingly impossible and took care of him. And now Elijah's been directed to go to this widow and to have her do this for him. It says God has prepared her to do it. So in her heart, deep down inside, she knows what God's asking her to do. Maybe Elijah shared with him the awesome wonders that God had just done for him. I don't know if God shared with her that. But he tells her to be faithful. It says, Elijah said to her, do not be afraid. Go home and do as you said. But first make a small loaf of bread for me from what you have and bring it to me. And then make something for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. The jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land. And she went and did as Elijah had told her. So there was food every day for Elijah and for the woman and her family. For the jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word the Lord had spoken to Elijah. So because Elijah trusted God in the beginning in his situation, he had the experience to know God could be trusted. And he shared with this lady to trust God in the amazing, miraculous things God was going to do. And she was faithful and made that bread and provided for Elijah. And in return, God provided for her and her son. They did not starve to death. But God blessed her and her family for being faithful, for trusting him. How many of you guys realize when you trust God, those blessings don't just affect you. It affects those close to you. They were faithful. Elijah was faithful to God in the beginning, and it prepared him to be able to share this lady to be faithful. Sometimes we go through things so we can help others through things. We need to be aware of that. It's called a testimony. Then sometime later, the son of the woman who owned the house became ill, and he grew worse, and finally he stopped breathing. So Elijah said, what do you have against me, man of God? she said to Elijah, what do you have against me, man of God? Do you come and remind me of my sin and kill my son? Give me your son, Elijah replied. He took his arms and carried him all the way to the upper room, and he was staying there and laid him on his bed. Then he cried out to the Lord, Lord my God, you have brought this tragedy even on this widow I am staying with, causing her son to die. Then he stretched himself out over the boy 3 times and cried out to the Lord, Lord my God, let the boy's life return to him. The Lord heard Elijah's cry, and the boy returned to him.